Welcome back as we continue our conversation now with the minority leader of the Westchester County Legislature, Legislator John Testa. That's always a mouthful.
Yes.
We need to work on the language there. We were talking earlier about this signature issue that popped up with your potential campaign opponent who has been thrown off the ballot.
Correct.
His signatures have been invalidated. I want to go back to something that Majority Leader Borgia said in her response, calling you a sore winner. Isn't there a certain... You must be sensitive to the fact that there might be an element of sour grapes that's perceived from all this. She sort of hits you, and now you're hitting back in all of this. You're now running unopposed. Why do this? Why make this an issue?
First of all, to commit the fraud and cheat and try to really defraud the public, defraud the voters by having the process be circumvented, and then to say I'm a sore winner, when if they just did the process properly, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. So it's really not my doing that this happened. Just because you cheat and get caught, then you blame the person who catches you and brings it to light. I think what I am doing and bringing it to the public's attention is doing a favor, and maybe in the future, candidates will realize you have to be honest and open and upfront about what you do.
And I don't mean to harp on the language, but you keep coming back to cheating and defrauding and corrupting the process, which some of those,
what happened.
But isn't the signator, isn't the person who signed the petition the one who, to use your words, cheated or corrupted the system? You're putting this all on the majority leader.
Let me just go back and explain how it all happened. I received calls from Democratic district leaders in my district who are friends of mine who gave me a warning to keep an eye on what's going on because they were not approving of some of the activity that was taking place in regards to my potential opponent's petitions. He got into the race late. They were scrambling to get enough signatures, and they knew that things were being done that shouldn't be done. They refused to be a part of it. The candidate was never brought in front of the committees to be vetted and voted on and endorsed. He was never an endorsed candidate by the committees. They did not like the process that was put in place by the party leaders. And they knew that something was going wrong, which was the only reason we looked at the petitions to begin with. And then when we found out that all of these fraudulent entries were submitted to the Board of Elections, it's not the person who signs. When they were standing in front of A&P shopping centers and supermarkets, and when a person's walking in the shop, they would ask them, are you a registered voter? Are you a Democrat? Yeah, I'm a registered voter. Will you sign this petition? They sign it. They don't know all the rules, or they don't know all the details. They honestly sign it as a voter, thinking they're doing the right thing. The person who signs the witness statement at the bottom of that petition is responsible to make sure that each and every entry and everything that they say is on there is valid. If they were not valid, all they needed to do was put a line through that person's name, and that wouldn't have been counted. No harm, no foul. They didn't do that.
You know this is going to open up the process to all sorts of questions. If anybody who's on the Board of Legislators has ever had a name that's been scratched from the list, that would run afoul of the accusations that you're making.
This is not just a name. This is 83 substantiated fraudulent entries that, if they were not challenged, this person would have been fraudulently, a false candidacy would have been created for him. This was something that was to make sure that the process is followed properly, the law is followed, the rules are followed. I'm someone who believes in following the rules and not cheating. So, what can I say?
So looking past Election Day, I'm going to assume, since you're running unopposed, that you're going to win re-election. I was going to win anyway, but that's a whole lot. And let's assume, for the hypothetical sake, that Catherine Borgia wins and is re-elected as majority leader or Democratic leader, let's put it that way. You two are still going to have to work together.
We're going to have to work together come Monday. And I have no problem with that. I'll walk into the County Board of Legislators on Monday.
This doesn't interfere with that process? This doesn't lead to gridlock like we see in Washington?
Not from my side of the aisle, absolutely not. This is something that I had to point out when I discovered it. It's done. It was ruled in my favor. The evidence is there, and we move forward.
And a phone call or having a cup of coffee with her and discussing this as opposed to doing it in a press conference and on a television show?
No, I'm sure we will bury the hatchet and move forward together. We're both have gotten along well on the board. We don't agree on all the policies, obviously, but we've been very professional on the board of legislators, and I'm sure that it will continue.
I think I'm going to open a coffee shop in White Plains just to handle these kinds of issues.
We drink a lot of coffee there.
I know you do. I know you do. I want to move on to some other issues related to the county.
Sure.
And what do you think are the top issues for Westchester right now?
Right now, we're, as we were talking earlier, the Playland issue, we're all anxious to make sure that the Playland agreement goes forward in a positive way, and there's a positive advancement on that area.
Since you brought that up,
yes.
There's a co-manager for Playland,
yes.
the private operator who's
Correct.
going to take over next year in conjunction with the county.
Correct.
Have we seen any changes in how Playland works thus far? Are we expecting any? When should we expect?
At the end of this season, there's going to be a reevaluation by the new operators and in conjunction with the county and the county commissioner of parks and our committee on parks, as well as the administration. And we'll be able to then focus on what they saw in this period and focus on what needs to be done for next season.
You and I saw quite a bit of each other during the Playland process.
Yes.
One of the questions that I kept asking throughout this process, and I'll ask you again today, how much of this was just county lawmakers wanted this off their plates? This has been an issue for a long time, what to do with Playland. How much of this was just, let's just move on and find somebody else to run the thing?
Well, the first proposal kind of fell apart, and it was time to then move forward without losing too much time, because the investment that needed to be done in Playland to keep the park going and not have any period of closure was very important to the board. We did not want to see it close down for a year or two and have whatever repairs that needed to be done not done. So we needed to make sure that we move as quickly as possible in a reasonable way, and I think that's what we did.
Why wasn't it, and more than I expected we were going to talk about Playland,
Yeah.
but why $20+ million, $25 million of investment by this private firm? Why didn't anybody from the county say, what if we invest $20 million and try to make the necessary improvements? Was there ever a consideration that the county could refurbish Playland in a way that would maybe cost less and certainly take the profit back to Westchester County as opposed to this private operator?
Well, there was no guarantee that that was going to happen. As we said earlier also, the county is not really in the amusement park business and should not be in the amusement park business in my view. We needed professional operators in there. We've already invested millions and millions of dollars. Look at the Children's Museum. That was a $9 million investment for $1 a year rent coming back. So we already have that $9 million to restore those buildings. So the more we invest, and we already lose $4 million a year, we needed to have a different model that was going to be a more successful model.
If your thought is that the county shouldn't be in the amusement park business, why wasn't there a debate about selling Playland?
Because it's dedicated parkland. New York State would have to go through the process of taking it off that, and I think that would have been an impossible process to get through.
The other big story that's been percolating for a long time is the housing settlement, now 5.5 years into it, since it was signed in 2009. Last month, U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara shifted his gaze from Albany to Westchester. He says that the county violated the terms of the settlement, wants a contempt order against the county, $60,000 a month in fines, and more than $1.5 million in escrow until that contempt is lifted. Why is this still going on? And is the posturing of the administration that HUD and the federal government is wrong in this settlement, is that hurting the county?
No, we have a county executive and a majority on the board that is sticking up for the county. Right now, the settlement is being followed to the T, actually in advance of what some of the benchmarks were. All the
U.S. Attorney disagrees with that.
Of course he's saying that, because they never expected the county to follow this in the right timeline to begin with. They were hoping that we would not. That's my personal view. They wanted this to be, this is a test case for the whole country. They want the county to capitulate on the expansion of this agreement to things that were never even part of the agreement, which is where this latest argument is coming from, to take legal action against municipalities within the county, which we will not do.
There's another risk for the county when it relates to the housing settlement. Later this month, HBO, David Simon,
Yes.
the guy who did The Wire and did Treme, he's going to be out with a mini-series about the Yonkers busing and housing issues in the 1980s. It's Show Me a Hero. It debuts in just a couple of weeks.
That.
people are going to log on, and if they do a search for Westchester housing discrimination, thinking that they're going to get information about this miniseries and what happened in the 1980s, could very easily pop up and see what's happening today in Westchester County. Any concerns about the image or how this is going to make the county look in the wider national spotlight?
No, I think I'm hoping it does get national spotlight, because all the other counties throughout the country should be joining us here in Westchester, fighting the federal government and their overreach. Because after Westchester, if they're successful here with what they're trying to do, it's going to go throughout the whole country, and no one is going to be safe.
Before I let you go, I want to get a couple of getting to know you questions.
Sure.
You're former mayor of Peekskill. You were on the city council
I was a councilman for 1 term, 3-term mayor.
And now the county legislature.
I was also a teacher at Peekskill High School for 33 years. Just retired in my 2nd year now.
What do you like better, being an executive, being a member of a legislature, or being a high school teacher where at least you know everybody's going to be unruly?
Well, I've always done both jobs in conjunction with being a teacher, there's pros and cons to both. I like being the mayor because being the CEO, as you say, and getting things done in a quicker way. The legislature can be a little bit slow and a little bit too many meetings, too long, but it's a different process, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy being able to help more people than just my one town. Now I can help all of northern Westchester.
Biggest misconception that people have about the county legislature or about the Westchester County government?
That we don't get along. We get along great. And,
except for signatures are concerned.
Well, except for when some technicalities get in the way, but overall, personality-wise, we all get along well, and we do try to do the best for what we think needs to be done for our constituents and the county as a whole.
If I gave you a magic wand and said you could change one law in Westchester County or make one change to the county, what would it be?
I would say that we need to have more of a interaction between the executive and legislative branch. We have to come to a point where we can sit down together more and accomplish even more at a sooner period of time.
If you figure out how to do that,
yes,
please. I mean, I was going to say, tell me, but write a book. I mean, that seems to be in need all across the political realm. Last question, and I ask this of everybody. Favorite spot in Westchester County? Your home is not an acceptable answer.
My home is not an acceptable answer.
For the purposes of this question, what's your favorite spot in Westchester County?
Anywhere along the Hudson River.
There's a lot of room there. And by the way, what's wrong with the sound?
Nothing's wrong with the sound, but I'm used to the Hudson River. Actually,
is there one spot you like to go to along the river? Is there one particular place?
I like to go to the Peekskill waterfront, and it's the most beautiful spot along the Hudson. I'm also the president of the Lincoln Depot Museum, a new museum that maybe we could talk about in the future segment.
I'd like that.
In Peekskill, I'm very interested in history, so I go anywhere that's historic, and this museum has become one of the focal points of mine going forward.
I only ask so that if there's a day where we absolutely need to find you and we can't,
that's where I'll be.
Now we know where to look.
Exactly.
Minority Leader of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, John Testa. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.